Welcome to the second episode of Less Invasive Podcast. I'm your host, Lucien Blandel, and I have experience in robotics in neurosurgery, orthopedics, spine, and interventional radiology. And today I'm happy to have Karandeep Singh Badwal on the show. So Karandeep is an independent consultant in quality and regulatory affairs. He's also the host of a podcast called the Medtech Podcast, and he has a YouTube channel on which he shares his vision and insights on quality and regulatory topics. Hi, Karandeep. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Lucien. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm very excited to have this episode focused on quality and regulatory because those are topics that are extremely important in medical device, especially when it comes to assistive technologies for the operating room. And I believe there is awareness to be raised on these kind of topics. And those are complex topics. And I hope we will be able to provide some education to the listeners on this. So, first of all, I would like to start with understanding who you are. Maybe if you could explain your background and your journey into quality regulatory and how you ended up in the medical device.
Yeah, sure. So, as you touched on too, I'm currently an independent quality and regulatory consultant within medical devices. But how my journey started was at university. So, my bachelor's degree was within pharmaceutical and cosmetic science, and my master's degree was in pharmaceutical quality. So, initially, my education was in the pharmaceutical field. And how that happened was as a student at school, I always enjoyed scientific subjects, but wasn't 100% sure of what I wanted to do. Being that I'm Indian, the typical thing is, usually be a doctor or something like that. But it wasn't something that sort of really appealed to me. I knew I wanted to go in the scientific field, but not what. So I thought, if I do pharmaceuticals and I do cosmetics, that's going to open a lot of doors for me. So while I'm at university trying to figure it out, I'm doing a degree that's going to give me many options. And it was between my second and third year of my bachelor's degree, I came across regulatory affairs dealing with the MHRA, which is the UK competent authority. And we were doing a lot of case studies and projects based around this quality assurance and regulatory dealing with things like recalls. And it just sort of really appealed to me. And I find that quite interesting. So hence why I went for my master's degree to do it in pharmaceutical quality. When I finished my degree, I was sort of looking for jobs and I was a typical student, effectively, lots of student debt, and you just kind of take the first job that you're given. And it happened to be a quality role within medical devices. Now, I'd heard of medical devices before, but I didn't really know what they were. So I went into this company and they were basically an OEM, so a third party manufacturer for other medical device companies. They were called Owen Mumford. And at the time, I was working on the production line, building diabetes pens, conducting quality checks, GMP, CAPAs, non-conforming product procedures, etc. And it just sort of trickled on from there. So I thought, you know what, medical devices sounds quite interesting because with pharmaceuticals, you could be working 5 years, 10 years, and in some cases even longer just to get your product on the market. I was quite surprised to see medical devices hitting the markets in 6 months, 1 year. And even the diversity, we got hospital beds, we got pacemakers, we got software. It was just so diverse. And I thought, this is the kind of industry that I want to go in because there's so many options in terms of the kind of products and the kind of people that I want to work with. So going on from Owen Mumford, I basically went into a huge company called St. Jude Medical, which was eventually bought out by Abbott Medical. Now, they're one of the biggest companies out there. They do food, they do pharmaceuticals, they do medical devices. And that was sort of my sort of intro into working with big companies. Now, the area I worked in was with vascular, so things like pacemakers, defibrillators, stents, etc. And that was a full-on quality assurance and regulatory affairs role. Within that role, I was mainly working with field safety corrective actions. So again, I was learning about what happens when products go wrong in the market, what are the modes of failure, what corrective actions are in place, how do you go about contacting competent authorities, communicating with them, etc. Then from there, I went into a software company called Bioepic. So again, this was new to me. I knew that software could be medical devices, but not sole software. My experience would be that you'll have a medical device and then a software that's used for its operation. But a software in itself being a medical device was completely new, and that was diabetes based. That was quite a small startup, so the company unfortunately did go bust. So from then on, I went into cancer nasal, and again, this was a new thing for me: contact lenses. People don't realize contact lenses are medium risk, class 2A medical devices. So this was a company out there producing spectacles and medical devices, and they really needed someone who understood the regulatory inside out. And I found it ridiculous in the sense that a little contact lens had to have the same sort of regulations and paperwork as a pacemaker or something like that, albeit that it was a lower risk, but it was quite an interesting experience. And then whilst I was working full time there, I started doing a little bit of consultancy in the background. So around that time was also the time that I started doing video content online, because what I realized with quality and regulatory, a lot of people don't understand what it is and why it's important. In a sense, they find it annoying, they find it a burden. This is the limitation. Why can't we got our products on the market? But if you play your cards right and you understand the quality and regulatory system, you can build it in such a way that it actually benefits you as a company. A quality management system can really benefit a company. Following regulatory framework, if you do it properly, can actually benefit your product. And that's why I started doing videos. So in the background, when the videos were happening, people saying, "Hey, Karandeep, would you like a consultant job?" I'm like, "No, I'm working full time. I'm quite happy with where I am." And then as the medical device regulation was coming on, which was released in May, 26th of May 2021, there was a lot of demand to have like consultants, not just on a full-time basis, but maybe 1 day a week, 5 hours a week, just for a bit of assistance to help and bring that in. And I said, okay, well, if I can find part-time roles to fit around my full-time role, this will be perfect for me. And then what started happening is these part-time roles started picking up and up and up. And it was getting to the point where I'm working 70-hour weeks. And I sat down and had to
Wow.
think to myself and said, now's the time to go into consultancy.
Yeah. So
The options are there.
you were pushed into independence, basically.
Yeah, I mean, my aim was always to be a consultant, but it kind of happened by accident rather than me
Okay.
pursuing it. I took on one part-time role, then a second part-time role. And because I enjoyed my work, it wasn't a case of, oh dear, I'm working 70 hours. This was 70 hours of me happily working, enjoying the work. But then, as you know yourself, the more you work, that's less time you have to spend on yourself, your family. And it really came to the point and said, okay, it's getting to the point where I need to walk away from full-time work and go into quality assurance and regulatory full-time as a consultant. So that was my journey and where it is basically today. And where it went on to, like you touched on too, was I was doing a lot of video content on my own channel, but also doing a video content with other people like Manir Alazi on Easy Medical Device, going on various different podcasts too. And they were all saying to me, Kennedy, why don't you start your own podcast? I'm like, well, guys, you have your own one. Is there really another need for another? I was like, you've got your own style, you've got your own way of presenting, give it a go. And here I am, 18 episodes into it and enjoying it ever since.
Yeah, congratulations. Starting a podcast is not a small task, and especially having consistency in delivering a couple of episodes each month is a really a huge task. And I want to say thank you because it helps raise awareness on how you can leverage quality and regulatory to actually benefit for your product, for your company, for your processes, instead of looking at it as only as a constraint. I mean, it can be seen as a process, a method to improve your product and improve the way you work within the company. Yeah, so that's. I didn't know your background. We connected like 6 months ago when you reached out to me to be a guest in your podcast and talk about surgical robotics. And I'm happy to hear that you have a very diverse experience and from many different medical devices. And I agree with you that it's really an interesting field because we all face the same challenges and the same regulation, and we all want to provide benefit for the patient to improve, save, or extend patients' lives, and this can go with very very different ways, from the contact lenses to a pacemaker to a software. So it's a lot of places, a lot of opportunities in the medical device sector. So thank you, Karnip. And maybe so now you've been for a couple of years the independent consultant. What's the main challenges that you've faced moving on from an employee to being independent, and what kind of advice would you give to someone who would say maybe I want to go this way?
So what I say to people is know what you're getting into. When people think of consultancies, they often think of the advantages. You get to pick and choose your hours, which is true. You get to work remotely. You get to pick and choose your clients and the type of products you want to work with. However, what happens is now that you're not a full-time employee, you are the HR, you are the scheduler, you are taking 5 to 6 roles on. So what you really need to work on is your discipline and your scheduling. It's very easy to get overburdened because if a client says to me, currently, I need you 5 hours a week, that may not be the case. And Lucy, you one time when we initially were going to have our recording, I happened to have an unannounced audit, and you have to be prepared for things
Mm.
like that, where you have to stop your day and you have to support that client. So that's what I say. Number two is chances are you are going to be working far more hours than you did in your full-time job. Yes, it's going to be more flexible. Yes, you get to pick and choose. but the actual hours that you are going to work is going to be more. And that's not always paid hours. There's admin hours. There's times where I have to read contracts. There's times where I have to speak to potential clients. There's times where I have to write statements of work for people. And there's also the things to do with banking, accounting, taxes. That something has to be factored in. And I would say that 20% of the work that I do is admin. And that's something that you have to factor in as becoming a consultant. Number three is getting clients. That can be a challenging part. Yes, you can work with recruitment agencies, but majority of what the clients you're going to be getting is going to be through word of mouth. How are you going to be getting these clients? So I'm fortunate in the sense that I do video content, and through the podcast, they are recruiters and things like that who listen to it. So it's almost passively that I can get clients like that. And of course, as you've been experienced in the field, you get a bit of a name and then people start recommending you and as your network builds. But the first time you go as an independent consultant, don't go into it with no network, no connections, because that's basically setting yourself up for failure, because you're really going to struggle to find yourself the role. So if you are looking to get into consultancy, start building that network before you need it. Because sometimes I talk to people and they say, Karandeep, I want to be a consultant, but not now, maybe in 5 years' time. And then I say, okay, start going to medical device shows, start talking to people in medical devices. And they're like, oh, but it's the risk of my job. It's like, no, you don't go in to say that you're being a consultant. Just introduce yourself, get to know these people. So when 5 years down the line, you have set up your consultancy, you've got 100, 200, 1,000 people, etc., that you can reach out to. So the key here is start building a network before you need it. That is the key to being a successful consultant. And number two is, of course, is customer service. If you're going to be a consultant, you really need to deliver a very high quality of work. If you deliver one piece of bad quality, that word will get around, and then effectively your name is tarnished.
Great. I mean, I fully agree with your advice on building the network before you need it, and I think it is true for if you want to go consultant, but if you want to have any change in your career, that has to be built upon time prior to make this change and to make this decision. And it is through networking that you meet a lot of people and you get more insights on what you could be doing and what kind of value you provide to others and then having opportunities that come to you to make this change in your career. So yeah, that's insightful. So now I want to maybe take a use case to learn what are the basics of quality and regulatory. And so let's say I'm Lucien Lordel. I'm an entrepreneur, and I discussed with the orthopedic surgeon in Florida, and who is doing foot surgery, total ankle replacement. And I have this idea of providing a device with augmented reality to help him plan the position of the implants and provide computer assisted guidance during the surgery. So there is some software, sensors, augmented reality glasses, maybe instruments. And I have this idea. I start the prototype, and I want to make a startup. Where should I start to tackle the quality and regulatory aspect to make sure that 3 years down the line, I will have a product that will be cleared and a company that will be certified?
First thing that I would do is start with something known as an indications for use or an intended use statement. So firstly, you need to know what exactly is your device. So people think they know what the device is, but that is not always the case. So first of all, what are the medical indications? What are the specific conditions or diseases to be screened? Are they going to be monitored? Are they going to be treated? Are they going to be diagnosed? That's something that's important to know. In addition to that, who is the patient population? What are their demographics? What are their genders? What are their age groups? What are their weight ranges? Do they have any health problems? As you touched on, foot orthopedics. These may be people that have certain disabilities about them. So that's something that has to be factored in. Of course, who are the intended user groups? Is this something that's going to be used at home? Is this something that's going to be used in a clinical setting under the supervision of a physician? And also, who exactly are going to be the users? So you have your primary users, but you also may have secondary users. That may be a nurse who's maybe helping you with physiotherapy or checking up on you. They also need to be aware about this device too. Intended parts of the body, which we've already covered. Intended environment, is this something that's going to be sterile? Is this something going to be non-sterile? Because what that means is you may need a different production facility for this. And of course, the intended environment, like I've already touched on, is a hospital, is it going to be at home? Is this going to be a single-use device? Is it going to be reusable? Does it need constant re-sterilization? Is it going to be used in an ambulance setting? Is it going to be used in a hospital setting? And of course, the operating principle, how do you need to use that device to meet its intended use? Once you've got that statement in place, you now know what the device is. And with that device, what you can start doing is you can start looking for what's known as predicate devices. So, for example, in the USA, there's two ways around it. You've got the 510K process, which is you find a similar product onto the market, you make similar claims, and you put it through. Or you go down de novo, which means that it's completely novel. There's nothing out there on the market similar to it, and you go down that process. So that's basically what it is. What is your product? That's the first thing you need to do. And number two, the question that I often get is saying, Karen, which market should I go to first? Should I go to the EU? Should I go to the UK? Should I go to the USA? I say that's a question for health economics. Don't look to see what is the easiest market, but look to see where is your product going to have the most impact. So, for example, you said ankle issues. So that might be something that's very prevalent in the USA, but maybe not prevalent in the UK. So the USA is also where you want to basically go. So, number one, what is your product? Number two, where is it going to have the most impact? So now you've defined what your product is, the risk classification. And then number two, you've identified the region of the world where it's going to have the most impact. And then you can see what regulatory strategy you basically need for that.
Yeah, I mean that's very helpful. I mean, there are a lot of questions to answer before starting the journey. I guess those questions can be answered also along the way, and the strategy adjusted to either you do some part of disposable or not disposable, and then this will have impact on your product development and regulatory strategy. So let's say I've picked a couple of markets that would be Europe, UK, USA, and maybe Latin America, because I don't know, people have broken ankle in Latin America. What is there an easier way to start with, to start with one country and then leverage data from this country to file a clearance in another country, or should I register on all the markets altogether? What would be your advice?
So at this current moment in time, there is a real backlog with the EU notified bodies. So as the medical device regulation has come in, a lot of the notified bodies didn't have capacity to take that new regulation on. So what that now means, and for the listeners who maybe not know what a notified body is, basically the company that comes and audits you, your technical files, your quality management system, to grant you the CE mark. There's a lot less of them now available, which has caused a backlog. In addition to that, the medical device regulation has additional requirements. So these companies now need to spend more time. They've had to go out and train their auditors on this new regulation to be able to certify it. What that means is now causing a serious backlog. I've seen certain notified bodies claiming 12 to 15 months before they're even able to look at your technical file, let alone get your market access. What that now means is companies are basically looking at things like the USA. So, for example, you may be able to get market access in the USA in 6 months. Within the EU, that may be 12 to 15. And within the UK, that also may be similar to. But it's also important to note that the UK is no longer part of the EU. So the UK now has the UK CA mark. So if you get UK market access, you can only cover broken access, basically ankles in the UK, which is a very small market. Now, previously, when the UK was part of the EU, you could get your product registered in the UK and sell it anywhere in the EU. That's no longer the case. So that's changing. So as a company, what you really need to look into is where is your product going to have the most impact, like we touched on too. And number two is effectively, how much time are you willing to wait? You know, is putting it onto the USA market for 6 months going to give you the profit that you need or the revenue that you need to be able to put it into the EU? And these, again, are all questions based around health economics.
Okay, so that's interesting, and I can share our own experience at Quantum Surgical. We had a very long process before we get the CE mark clearance with our notified body, exactly because of the situation that you described, that there is a huge backlog due to the change between the directive and the medical device regulation. So let's say I've chosen USA. How can I get help to set up the QMS quality management system and get the technical file for the FDA? Should I do all by myself? Should I outsource part of it? Should I do halfway? What do you see in the industry, and what would you recommend?
Well, it really depends. So you've got two options. You can hire independent quality and regulatory consultants like me, or you can have full-time staff. But what I'm seeing with companies is they often have something that's more dynamic. They use a blend of both. So they may have one or two quality assurance and regulatory experts in the company that they hire, but they also have people like me who are consultants who may be able to provide a bit more assistance in terms of that. In terms of building the quality management system, this is how it works. And the way I always say it is, I provide you a template of what that should look like. And then it's the people in your company that help you tailor that to the needs of your company. So that's how you build a quality management system. In terms of the technical files, it's also exactly the same. I come in as a consultant into your company and I sit down there and I know what a technical file should look like. But you are the expert on your product. You know exactly how it works. You know its modes of operation. So it's more like a collective effort. So yes, you can try to write the technical files yourself, but then you may not have an understanding of the regulation. I myself have an understanding of the regulation, but may not understand the technical parts of your product. So if we work together, that is really the key here to make sure that you've got the best technical files in place and the best quality management system. With the USA, actually, it's quite interesting. So within the UK and the EU, as part of the MDR, they do a conformity assessment on the quality management system. And also you have ISO 13485, which is the standard for quality management systems for medical devices. With the USA, they have something known as 21 CFR 820. They expect you to have a quality management system, but they don't necessarily audit it. Not a lot of people know that. So there's no certification process for your quality management system in the US, but you are expected to have one. Does that mean that some companies have gone down the 510K route without a quality management system in place? Sadly so, and they have been
Wow.
flagged up on it.
I mean, that's that's taking a lot of risk because if you don't have a quality management system in place, I mean, getting certification is something, but then getting the product being produced, serviced, installed, and everything. That's if you don't have something really steady and robust in place, that's a business risk that I would never take. Okay, thank you. I mean, that's I hope insightful for the listeners. And maybe now I want to touch on a more personal question that is around your religion, that is a Sikhism. So just to give a little background, I've been traveling. I took 2 gap years, one just after being graduated, and I traveled the world, including Asia. And then 7 years after, I took a gap year and traveled only in Asia. So I went to several countries in Asia, including India, where there are the four main religions around what we call the Dharmic religions, which is Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and all these religions share some common ground, I guess, as they were created at the same place. And I happened to be at several places of worship at that time, including the Kumbh Mela festival, which is a huge pilgrimage in India, where 40 million people gather at the same place every 12 years, and that was a very impressive one. And then I went to in the Punjab, in Amritsar, which there is what we call the Golden Temple, which is the most worshipped place, I think, for Sikhism, and I had a really impressive experience over there, with people being very welcoming, and a great experience. So when I knew that you are a Sikh, I wanted to learn more, and I started to read a thing about the religion, but I wanted to hear it from you. And so, how, for someone who know only Sikhism by the fact that you wear a turban, how would you describe this religion?
So Sikhism is a monotheistic religion. We believe in one God. It was founded in 1469 in northern India in the Punjab region, as you mentioned. And the word Punjab means the land of five rivers because there's five rivers that flow through it. We believe God to be all around us, not to be a celestial being in the sky. It's within our hearts, it's in our minds. It's the energy that creates and destroys us. In terms of the values we live by, we live honestly, we work hard, we treat others equally, regardless of religion, caste, creed, color. That doesn't matter to us. An important factor in our lives is to be charitable and help people as much as we possibly can. Our places of worship are known as temples or gurdwaras and are open to everybody, regardless of caste, creed, religion, or color. As you went to the Amritsar and the Golden Temple, most temples offer a free meal, which I'm sure you must have
Mm,
experienced when you
yeah.
went there. And that's anywhere in the world, regardless of you are. You can be an atheist, you can be of any gender. It doesn't matter at all. Basically, our temples are open to all. The values that we live by are honesty, compassion, generosity, humility, integrity, service, and spirituality. So, effectively, being a good human being is what the focus of our religion is all about. And as you've touched on to, the way to identify a Sikh is males are often seen wearing turbans. Some females also choose to do so as well. And we also follow the principle known as the 5Ks, which is Gesh, which is uncut hair. So we keep our hair. As you can see, I have a beard here, and I'm also wearing a turban covering my hair. We also have a Ganga, which is a comb, which again is to basically keep our hair clean. We also have a kachera, which is a long undergarment, so we refrain from things like lust, which is basically one of the evils considered in Sikhism. We also carry a kirpan, which is a small dagger, because at the time when Sikhism was around, there was a lot of war going on in India, and there was a lot of bad people effectively around. So a lot of the Sikhs would carry a kirpan in terms of self-defense. So you may still see that today. And of course, a gada, which I can show you. So that's a steel bangle that I wear. And what that is, usually you wear that on your dominant hand. So when I'm out every single day conducting activities, that's a constant reminder of my religion and the principles that I live by. So I know with that hand, I have to do good with it. It's more of a symbolic thing, really.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's very interesting, and I can feel and I experience the importance of humanity, being a good human being, and servicing, being at the service of people. As you said, when I went to this temple, they were preparing meals for hundreds of people for the same day, and I joined the people over there to prepare the food, and it was really an incredible experience. So maybe the next question would be how this because there are really, I feel, the very strong values in this religion that probably are common also to other religion. How this impact your way to doing business, or in your personal life, how this religion how do you incarnate this religion in your business?
Yeah, so I openly admit I'm not a fully Orthodox Sikh. There are certain activities that are not allowed in the religion that I do, but within Sikhism, that's fine. Nobody is perfect, and not everybody necessarily follows the religion 100%. But what I do follow is the values and the ethics. So there are certain companies in the medical device world which ethically I would not work with, because I personally think that their products are going to cause harm, or they are simply there just to make money or to exploit a certain market or a certain region of the world. And I won't do that. If I feel as though the product is not about helping humanity and it's going to be bringing harm to anybody, and that's just not business, that's anything really, I refuse to be part of that. In terms of daily life, I do a lot of charity as well. So as you mentioned, I work in the temple sometimes on the weekends. We prepare the meals, and usually what we do with the excess meals, instead of throwing them away, we tend to go to busy town centers. We find people who are homeless and necessarily don't have food with them. Usually we hand out food, and that's what I try to do. And for me, charity is not just about giving money or service. It could be just picking up the phone. It might be a friend who's feeling depressed. Maybe they're having a hard time. They've lost a family member. That in itself is also charity. So it's just about, what can I do for other people to make their lives better? And if you make somebody's life better, they then push that out in the world. They make other people's life better. And it's like a constant stream, in the same sense that if somebody has a bad experience, they sort of project that out onto the world. It can make the world a worse place. But if you give somebody a good experience, they're going to project that energy onto others. And it just sort of trickles on from there and just makes the world a nicer place to live in.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to see things, to project uh, good values to your environment, to the people you love, and to the people you interact with, so that they can do the same with other people, and we can all live in, I guess, in a better world. So I was not aware of this religion before I went to these places. How do you feel people? I guess in the UK, people know more about Sikhism, but when you travel or when you talk to other people from other countries, what is the perception of this religion outside of your community?
Curiosity. So people often don't know who I am. I'm often mistaken sometimes for a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Hindu, or in some cases, people just know I'm Indian. And they often don't know what Sikhism is. And then when I tell them it's a religion, they're quite surprised that they haven't heard of this religion before. And we're the fifth largest religion in the world. And still people haven't necessarily heard of us. But I'm not offended if somebody thinks of another religion, that's fine. And for me, it's just all about education. And if you really peel it back, all religions are trying to do the same thing. It's all about
Mhm.
humanity and serving people. And that's basically the values of what it is. So the reaction that I get when I go abroad and I talk to people is often curiosity. People are interested, like, why do you wear this turban? What does it signify? And it's often interest, and people are quite surprised, like yourself, when you travel to India, that why haven't I heard of this religion before?
Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, almost I think like 30 million people with this religion. And I mean, part of my objective with this episode was to bring give a voice to this religion, and to bring awareness of what are the values which I share, and which should be known by other people. So thank you very much, Karandeep, for sharing your vision of your religion. And maybe for the last part of this episode, I want to give you the opportunity to ask me a question. So we exchange seats. You will be the host, and I'll be the guest, and I will answer any question that you might have.
Why exactly did you go into surgical robotics out of all the medical devices you could have worked in? Was it curiosity, or was this something, a personal goal that you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, I mean it. I think it's maybe it's like you by accident. When I finished my studies 20 years ago, I had to do an internship as a part of my graduation of engineering school, and I was trained in robotics, automation, software, but it was more targeted for the heavy industries such as automotive, aeronautics, space industry. And I was not attracted to these industries. I wanted something that made more sense for me. So there was an opportunity for an internship in a research laboratory who was working on a project of a surgical robot. So I, I didn't know this field at all before I applied for this role, and that's where I discovered pretty much the medical device field and surgical robotics. And it was a 9 months internship at the time and it was really the beginning of this booming sector. So I had really some time to um, explore, research all what was been doing in research labs or in the startups, in other companies around the surgical robotics. And that's where I just found that it was the place I wanted to be, because it was combining complex technologies, innovation, and at the same time um, therapeutic treatment in a really different environment, that is a surgery, the operating room, which is totally different from an engineering environment. And during this internship, I observed, I attended to many cases, different cases in heart surgery, in urology, like radical prostatectomy, in endovascular. I was trained to several fields of surgery, and for me that was a perfect match, because there was a great opportunity to learn and to understand what is surgery, and to bring some of my skills in innovation and let's say complex technologies, and to see how we can design a technology that will answer an unmet need. So not designing a technology for the technology, but designing a technology for answering the a customer need, to help him or her do better his job, or do more than what he or she is doing right now. So that's where I started, and then I never left the space. Does this answer your question?
Yep, definitely does. It's quite interesting. So yeah, similar journey to mine. Just took it one opportunity at a time.
Yeah, I think, and for me, that's the reason why I do this networking, and I guess you do the same. Is that when you let opportunities come to you, then you have the horizon of possibilities is just infinite, and then you will find the match, either being with people you want to work with, or people you want to help, or a company you want to be in, and you have so many opportunities that you will be able to find the right one for you, instead of searching everywhere and trying to find something that fit who you are when you are today, and who you want to become in the future. All right, I think we are at the end of this second episode of the Less Invasive Podcast. Thank you very much, Karandeep. I learned a lot, I learned on your background, the various medical devices. It was refreshing to have the overview of what is needed to be done to tackle the quality and regulatory aspect in a startup journey. And really, I like the focus you put on really defining what's your product for, who is it for, what's the indication, because that's really the basis, the foundation then of the whole technical file and clinical file that we have to provide to clear the product on different markets. And I was very happy to hear more about your religion and thank you very much. And just hang on for a minute. We'll chat a little bit more and see you next time for the listeners.
Thank you very much, Lucian. It's been a pleasure.